It is just a huge honor for me to bring back to the show for a second time. I almost never ever did this in the first 1,500 shows, but Steffany Mohan was on number 140. So when we started this show, it started with my man Datola, and I was trying to get Steph on the first out of the gate. So she was show 140. Now she's coming back as show 1,500 something. But Steffany Lee Mohan Dds, and to the left, her is Leah Rolling. So Steffany Lee Mohan Dds, who practiced dentistry since 1996, completed her undergraduate work in agriculture biochemistry before earning her Doctorate of Dental Surgery at University of Iowa. Dr. Mohan owns and operates Plaza Dental Group, West Towers Dental Group. She has bought and sold several dental practices. She currently owns 5 practices where she employs 9 associate dentists and 40 team members. And I can't wait to hear how 2020 has changed her life. But over the years, I just want you to know that there's a lot of people who looked at her, wanted to always know her thoughts. For me personally, when headache therapy and sleep apnea came out, replacing a CPAP machine, Steph was the first person I called. Is this a fad? Is this real? Headache therapy with Trudenta. You're the first person I know that used Nucom for fear. Core whitening with my man, Rod Kurt. You have always been an entrepreneur from the word go that just happened to be a dentist. And so then next to you is Leah Rolling, who has a bachelor's in econ, finance, health, and alternative medicine. She has a master's in exercise physiology and sports nutrition. She's also finishing a PhD in natural medicine and has her holistic health practitioner license and certified by the American Association of Drugless Practitioners. She also has the following coaching certifications: NLP practitioner, NLP advanced masters, hypnosis practitioner, hypnosis advanced masters, quantum coach, life coach, health coach, spiritual coach, conscious coach, meditative conditioning, hormone profile certificate, chakras, CBT, personal training, strength and conditioning. And don't worry, I already asked her before the show. She recommends just straight Jameson. You have any problems, just drink straight Irish whiskey, and that's her number one alternative medicine. By the way, I want to say something about alternative medicine because I'm not naive to sit there and know that all old dentists are old conservative guys, and anything alternative is a trigger point for them, and they start freaking out until it happens to them. And then once the doctor tells them, oh, you got high blood pressure, you got to go on a pill. And they're like, oh, well, I'm not going to do big pharma. Everybody knows polyphagia. By the time you're on 5 different prescriptions, you're dead. And it's so funny how they all get holistic when they have to take the big pharma pill, and then they start changing their diet. And some dentist last night was talking to me about magnesium, and he didn't have enough magnesium in his diet. So I said, oh, MG, get it? 0 magnesium. I thought it was funny, but the bottom line is the market didn't go to 8 years of college, and they already lost trust in big pharma. And even in this last election, it was a tiebreaker. Is 50-50. They've all been so close. But I'll tell you what, they've only given the United States government an 11% approval rating since I got out of high school in 1980. Basically, 89% of all Americans think their government sucks. They're $23 trillion in debt. And dentists, they always come out of school like chiropractors and naturopaths. That's not dogma. Yeah, we know. But wait till it happens to you, and you're the first guy who's going to go all naturopath on me because you're not. It's just the way it is. And the American people are already there, and I already know. I've had several people on the show that said, "My God, we put natural, just the word natural, heal, anything alternative on our website marketing, and people are driving an hour and a half from the other side of the Golden Gate Bridge to come to my practice because they just don't trust. I don't trust. Look at this vaccine. I guarantee you, money's the answer. What's the question? All they want to do is shoot, 1 billion people with something that costs $10 each, and that's all it is. So I'll shut the hell up. So Steffany, the entrepreneur who just happened to be a world-class dentist. You're not afraid of anything. You try everything. How the hell did this pandemic hit you? I mean, did it come out of nowhere and just knock you upside the head?
Well, that's actually like the best question you could have asked, because 2020 had the ability to just take me down completely, right? And not physically or my practice or anything like that, but mentally. And because it'll mess with people if you let it, right? And so that's how Leah and I started off 2020 was, okay, this is going to be a rough road for people. And we knew it wasn't going to be an 8-week shutdown, and we knew it wasn't going to be a short-term thing. We just knew. I mean, it was kind of obvious the way that we're treating the virus, the way that we're working with it, the way that we're putting it on the news, the way that we're having a relationship with it, if you will. I mean, like what we're doing with it, we knew it wasn't going to be a short-term thing. And so really the only difference we can make, and the only thing that we can do, and this, you'll immediately get this, right, is the only thing we can do is change the way we think about it. So that's what we did. And we changed the way that we thought about all of it. And we really decided this is what dentistry needs right now. It needs a different way to think about all of it. It needs a different way to understand what our, what we can control, what we can't control, what our thoughts are about all of it, and what we do with it. And that's going to guarantee our success if we have the right thoughts and we have the right, the right relationship with it. And so, Leah and I spent a ton of time talking through this. We never want another dentist to take their own life. We never want anybody to, their business to fail. We never want, because it really is largely in our control based on how we're thinking about it. And I know that you're right. The older, there are a lot of older dentists that are going to say, no, that's not true. And they can, that's okay. But honestly, we know that it's true. We know that it's true.
I'm actually very lucky. I've never had a dentist disagree with me. And when they just whatever I say, they go, all right. But that was so profound, Steph, because you just said, you're always keeping it real. The first thing out of your mouth was you don't want to ever want another dentist take their own life. There's a suicide threat on Dental Town that's 4 pages long. When I was really surprised when I podcast interviewed the president of the American Dental Association. I said, well, what's the biggest thing on your mind now? And the first thing he said is, I just want them to quit killing themselves. And some of these cases, I mean, there was one girl who, just the American girl, husband, farm, 3 kids in a barn, and a practice that looked like you made it. And boom, it's over. And I just had one in my backyard last week. But I just want to say one thing about the dentists who immediately want to brush that off and say, well, that's not even the cards in me. I mean, I don't have that issue. Dude, it's not simple. It's multifactorial. So there's usually lots of things. And the pandemic can be a big straw that broke the camel's back. I've noticed in the ones I all know of, there's can be love involved, substance issues, or it can be very multifactorial. But a lot of times, it's a love relationship that got wrong, and you're, instead of eating carrots, you're eating Vicodin or Jameson, or lots of shit goes in the sauce. But you never know when your whole world's going to turn upside down. So you should really think about these complex issues like not taking your own life when you're not thinking about taking your own life, so that when you get in that situation, you kind of know what to do. But my God, it's just so sad that they're like that. Are you seeing any suicides in the Midwest over by you and Iowa?
There was a young woman in our community that had 5 kids that a pediatric dentist, and it's heartbreaking. And I mean, what I didn't realize, and Leah can explain this better than I can, but when I started to really contemplate what was going to happen this year, I started kind of spinning out of control with all of the possibilities and everything that could happen. And so we sat down and we said, okay, how can we make sure that we can really ensure that this can be a great year, right? And so we started talking about that, and I'll let Leah kind of take it from there, because I think that it's really, she just is so much more articulate than me. But I think it's really important that we and thank you so much for letting us come and address this. But I think because it's certainly not all about suicide, there's a lot of people that are going to just think that it's 2020 is just going to be the worst year they're ever going to have. And Leah can explain why that doesn't have to be the case.
Well, I was born in Wichita, Kansas, and went to, but do you know why the dentists in Kansas and Iowa are so bummed out? Because Missouri loves company. Missouri loves company. Missouri loves company. Yeah. So these are go ahead. What do you? How do you see this, Leah? And I really. I spent a lot of time on your website, leahrowling.com, things like that. But what I really wanted to hear from you is, me and Steph, we drank the purple Kool-Aid decades ago. We're dentists. Even if we sold our practice and retired, we'd still be dentists. People still call us doc. Your fresh set of eyes from the outside world, where you've been very successful. How did dentistry look to an outsider like you with all your education when you took a peek and said, "Oh, dentistry, what's behind that door?" And you open the door, and there's dentistry. What did it look like to you?
Well, it looked similar and different, and I can explain. So it looked similar in that humans, right? Human behavior is people. That's how people behave, right? And so it doesn't matter what profession you're in. It doesn't matter if you're a teacher, you're a dentist, or you're a chiropractor. It doesn't matter. We all have struggles, okay? But it wasn't until I got into dentistry and talking to dentists and talking to the people in dentistry, the teams, right, that I realized that the emotional and physical struggle that they deal with on a daily basis is tolling. It takes a toll on them. And I try to think about, like, why would that be? Like, why would that be? Why does dentistry have the highest suicide rate? And then I thought, what is people's perception about dentists? How do people feel about going into the dentist? Okay. And we are all energy. We're all made up of energy. And when you go to the dentist, or when, other people go to the dentist, you're going there probably not feeling excited, probably not feeling awesome or happy. Ooh, yes, I get to go see my dentist today. I get to see her at 1:00, right? Like, I'll go because I need to go twice a year to take care of my teeth. But it's not anything that most people are looking forward to doing. And you bring that energy, that kind of obligatory energy, into the door. And that's what they get. That's what they receive. Patient after patient after patient after patient, day after day after day, year after year after year. And I just think about that versus like the massage therapist, right? Or even the chiropractor, right? There's an immediate almost benefit that you feel when you get adjusted. There's an immediate benefit that you feel after you get off of a massage table, okay? You leave the dentist, okay? So you came in with negative energy. You're coming out with negative energy because your mouth is swollen. You can't eat or drink anything for 30 minutes, right? Or more. And I think that has to take a toll on your profession, probably more than, and it would indicate so, than any other profession. And I think the work that I do, the mindset coaching that I do, is important for all humans, but specifically and most importantly, probably this profession.
Yeah.
Well, you just gave me the best idea ever. I'm going to start the first national DSO of massage therapists from coast to coast. And I'm going to personally interview each one of them, to keep the quality. I just want to say one thing about the suicide stuff, though, is I know a lot of dentists, especially the older ones, believe that dentistry has the highest suicide rate. And there were some years of that in the past. But ever since your 19-year war with Afghanistan, which you haven't paid for, which you put on a credit card, you got 26 soldiers taking their lives every day. And nobody ever, because sometimes the firefighters, the policemen, there's been a lot of occupations battling out. But a 19-year war with Afghanistan, guys, stop it. Knock it off. How many soldiers, how many American boys have to take themselves out every year before you realize you have no business being in Afghanistan for coming up on 20 years? And Russia was in there. It took Russia 10 years to figure it out. How long is the world going to take to realize that you don't mess with humans on their own territory? They'll do whatever it takes to get another human off their territory. You don't fight on someone else's lawn. You just keep, stay on your own business. But so enough of that. But I'd love to see that war stop. But here's the one thing I got to tell the kids. It took me a long time to figure out. She's right. My father told me this. My father had 9 sonic drive-ins. When I told him I wanted to be a dentist, he looked at me like, what the hell would you want to do something like that for? I mean, he couldn't even get it. And he goes, I remember taking my boys to Disneyland, and the little kid in front of me was so excited, jumping up and down, he messed his pants and had his diaper changed. I mean, how many people have ever crapped their pants waiting to get into the dental office to have a root canal? And so you'd be working on someone, and I would sit there and think like, why am I so stressed? Why my heartbeat? Why do I mean, I'm sorry, is something bothering me? And then you realize, yeah, you're a foot away from a human who's scared and painful and hurting or whatever. And I don't know ESP, and I don't know any that stuff's all above our comprehension. But I know when you're right next to a human who's not happy and suffering, it totally affects you. You cannot be in there in that environment and not have it affect you. And you don't, it's kind of like the boiled frog deal, where if you throw a frog in boiling water, it jumps right out. But if you put it in cool water and slowly bring it to a boil, he doesn't get it and he'll boil. And you're in there all the time. And then the other thing that's bad is, my gosh, my second best idea was dentist, and then it was dermatologist, and then it was ophthalmologist, and I could have gone to Creighton Med School too, and all that stuff. But those things, like take an ENT, most primates are killed laying on their back while a carnivore has got them around the neck. So what did you do? You picked a job where, hey, let's lay on your back, lift your chin up, expose your throat, and then I'm going to go in your mouth. And I was telling a doctor about this one time when one of my kids being born. He goes, "Oh, Howard, I totally understand this." He goes, "Look, I can do a Q-tip his ear." He's examining the whole baby. He's doing the 10 test or whatever. He goes, now watch me just try to get in its mouth. And he just tried to get in his mouth. That baby's flipping around, and it's like, I don't know what it is about humans, but they don't want you on their mouth. They don't want to lay on their back, and they don't want to expose their throat. So my homie's best idea was to be a dentist. What the hell was your next best idea? I mean, that was the worst of all the body parts. We were so close to ear, nose, throat, and it's a stressful job. So it is what it is, but here's the bottom line reality. My homies, they make bank. And if they quit dentistry, what job can they go pick up where $150, $175 a year, $220, where can they go make that kind of money if they shred their dental diploma?
Yeah, they can't, is the answer generally. So we're stuck. And I'll tell you, when Leah and I started working this year, I felt very stuck. I felt stuck physically. I felt stuck emotionally. I felt stuck. I felt like I didn't want to be in the dental planet anymore. I didn't want to have anything to do with it. And I can honestly tell you, 8 months later or whatever, I don't feel like that anymore. And the interesting thing about it is, it wasn't, while it was an earth-shattering process for me, like 2020 could have gone either way for me, right? But what I found out was, we can change all of it by changing how we think about it. And it sounds so simple, right? It's been a full 8-month process to figure that out. But I mean, you probably have great examples that would make a lot more sense than me talking about it, because you do this, all the time. But as it relates to dentistry, I think it's super important to listen to what she has to say.
Well, let's listen to what you have to say. Because they do. They're stuck. And some dentists have it worse than others. I mean, when I think of Iowa, I feel most sorry for Jared Johnson, a pediatric dentist. I mean, that poor guy. I mean, I don't see a dentist. He's a pediatric dentist. What the hell was he thinking? I mean, picking dentistry was a bad idea. Jared Johnson, what were you thinking wanting to be a pediatric dentist? But they're stuck. So where do they go?
Well, you have kids that go to the dentist that haven't figured out that they don't like it yet, and then the kids that have. I mean, it's just a matter of time, right?
Right. Yeah.
So so how common is it for dentists right now to be feeling the blues more post-COVID than pre-COVID?
I think it's so much more common because I think we feel like everything's out of our control. We think that it's all, going to happen the way that it's going to happen, and there's nothing we can do about it. And when you feel like you're out of control, that's when you kind of you get stuck, and that's when you can get into trouble.
The people measuring this stuff are saying in dentistry it's three times higher. Three times higher, sad, depressed, suicidal.
Yeah.
I mean,
and I want to be really clear. This is like what we're talking about, the kind of, and there's an algorithm to it, which is really exciting because dentists love cookbook, step-by-step instructions or whatever. There's a step-by-step to it, which is, that's what hooked me. I was like, sign me up. If there's a way for me to figure this out and to actually have like a repeatable formula for it, sign me up. That's what I want. And so, a lot of people are like, oh no, this is counseling. This is hocus pocus. This is whatever. No, this is like scientific formula. So that's what's exciting about it to me. And I think it's important that we give it to your listeners and let them then understand.
Yeah.
Okay. So the scientific formula is for what exactly? What's the algorithm for?
Yeah.
So the algorithm is for getting out of your own way. So it's thinking about what you're thinking about. And so the algorithm is a coaching algorithm, right? Where you have to break down and differentiate the situation from your thought about it. Okay. So when we can do that, right, we can figure out what the S is. And sometimes I call it shit, right? Because that's the part that you really have to look at, right? You have to differentiate the S line, I'll call it in the model, which is the situation, from your thoughts about it. Okay. I like to use the weather or weight loss as an example because it's a really easy example. And most people are familiar with weather or traffic or weight loss. So it's less emotionally, right? It's less emotional tax. So if we talk about the weather, okay, we can say, and the situation is very factual. So it's something in a court of law that can be proven. Okay. So if it's something that somebody said, it goes in quotes because otherwise we like to extrapolate. Well, this is what I think is what they meant by what they said. Okay. So the weather here today is what? 42 degrees. Okay. So that goes in the S line. Okay. Now I can have a thought about that. Okay. That thought could be, wow, it's really super cold. I'm going to stay in today. I wish it was warmer. I wish it was summer. So I'm going to stay in all day and I'm not going to get any sun and it's going to be an awful day. Okay. So that's my thought about it. Now, thoughts trigger all emotion. Okay. And every time I say that, it's not any less fascinating because without a thought, we just don't have an emotion. All emotions are vibrations or frequencies in the body created from our thinking brain, the sentences that we create in our brain. Okay. So we have a thought that creates an emotion for us. So if I have a thought like it's 47 degrees and that's bad. Okay. I feel bad. I feel sad. I'm not motivated. Okay. Now all feelings motivate everything that we do. And I know a lot of times people don't like to talk about feelings. Okay. But feelings have to be first. Because think about it, everything that we do and everything that we don't do is to feel a certain way or to not feel a certain way, whether or not you're a feeling person or not. This is human behavior, friends. This is just the way it is. So everything that we feel motivates our action. Now, if we're motivated by a more positive emotion, we will have better action. If we're motivated by a not so positive emotion, we won't most likely have a most empowering action. So in that model, if we stay with the weather, okay, it's 47 degrees. I don't like it. It's cold. I'm mad. I'm upset about it. My action is going to be, I'm going to stay inside. I'm going to feel miserable. And my result is going to be, I'm not going to have a very good day. Okay. Your results are always proof of your original thought. And to date, I've not been challenged so that model doesn't come true. So again, the model is we have to differentiate the situation or the shit from what we're thinking about it. Okay. Because what we're thinking about it will create the results in our life. Okay. So if we want a different result in our life, we just have to change the way we're thinking about it. You can plug and play any scenario in that model.
So you say your results are always proven of your thought?
Original thought. Yep.
So your results are always proven by your original thought.
Yep. So in the weather example, right, my thought was, this is bad. Okay. And my result was, I had a bad day.
Yeah.
And mine was more, I have an MBA from ASU, and I immediately thought, well, today in Phoenix is 90 degrees. So, Steffany, just sell your damn office and come be my associate. Instead of you having 9, move out here where it's 90 and just work for me. But it's true. I remember. I went to Creighton, and Dr. Betty Dahl was the head psych of the psychology department, and her husband was another one. And I remember one day she walked in class and he said, "Okay, everybody, close your eyes. Just empty your mind. Just close your eyes. See, are you thinking something? You're just sitting there. You're waiting. You don't have this internal human that's talking to you all day." She goes, "You're talking to you. You're telling yourself the beliefs. If you just sit there and lay down in your bed and close your eyes, sitting there thinking there, your body's not telling you anything.
Yeah.
And then you decide, I'm gonna do whatever." So yeah, it's all your, like, I don't even understand the motivation books. Like people go buy all these motivational books. I'm like, well, dude, if you're motivated to go to the damn store and buy a motivational book, and you're motivated to read the damn motivational, why don't you just do what you originally were gonna do? I mean, if you got all that motivation, just do your damn thing. You don't need to go to Barnes and Noble to buy a motivation book. But so you know, everybody that's measuring this stuff, whether it be Vukacek at the ADA or whatever, that this mental stuff and this depression, this sadness, it's exploded. It's 3 times bigger. And my God, if it can happen to Steffany, it can happen to any damn dentist out there. I mean, you are so cerebral, successful, family, I mean, you've crushed every category there is. So if it can affect you, it can affect anybody listening to this stuff. So what is this test you do, or what is this algorithm you do? What would you advise to measure it, snap out of it, and what?
Right. So then we would take a situation in dentistry, I mean, a lot of the time it surrounds the team, right? Well, my hygienist is being a pain in the neck, and she's, whatever. And so Leah says the situation has to be something that's provable in a court of law. I mean, because otherwise we give emotion to it already, and we're not just having a situation. So you could say, my hygienist didn't show up for work today, and I don't know what to do about that. I don't know. So if your thought is positive about it, like, okay, that's fine, no problem, we'll move on to tomorrow, then you have a different result than if you make it a big thing. She didn't show up for work today, and that's the end of the world, and it's all downhill from here. And so then you have a different result with it. And anything that you plug into that situation, and think about it, how many times do we do that in a day? Mrs. Jones shows up, and I hate working on Mrs. Jones, so I don't want to do those 2 crowns that we had planned. So I'm just going to tell her that those teeth are fine. And then, next week, I'm going to do the same thing on several other patients. And then I don't want to do dentistry on people because they're a pain in the neck. And so those results that we're getting are because we have thoughts about things that may or may not be true. And anytime we make it mean something, I mean, and we see that all the time, right? I mean, how do dentists perform 5 times, more dentistry than another dentist? It's how they think.
Yeah. And the other thing that was fascinating that when we were talking is that dentists seem to generate the same amount of money month after month after month.
Right.
And I'm just like, well, why is that all they want to make? Like, do they just want to make that much and no more? Or are they just
wait, I want to hear Howard's thought on that. Because I mean, why do you think that is?
Why do I think they make the same amount of money?
Why do they produce the same amount month after month after month?
Because they set up their initial capacity. Yeah. And then as soon as they tell a person, I'm sorry, you can't come in and give me money today, you need to stand in line and wait 1 day or more. And they feel security for cash flow that they're booked out a month in advance. And that's the minute you say, I can't accept your money today, stand in line. I mean, I could get off this show right now and we could all go to Costco and buy a $2,000 refrigerator. We could buy a computer, a laptop, a car, a Ferrari, a boat, a house. We could go buy anything we want. But right now in Phoenix, Arizona, if you had to get your teeth cleaned today, it'd probably be easier to find a pound of cocaine and an AK-47 fully automatic. I mean, and on a Sunday, you'd find a mermaid riding a unicorn twice before you found a dentist open. And so they go home at 5. And this sounds so bad to say, and normal people wouldn't say it, but since I'm Dr. Abby Normal, it's mostly a problem for people born in America. Like when I go to San Francisco, if you're born in America, oh, San Fran, it's too many dentists, it's too crowded, and they tell you all the population ratio. Everybody who was born in Africa, South America, and Asia, they go, well, all the Americans, how they just go home at 5, and then at 6 o'clock, my iPhone starts ringing with toothaches. I go in there, $2,500 root canal build-up and crown on a Visa card, and they'll tell me that sometimes if they keep answering their phone on a Sunday, they'll do $12,000 just by themselves and an isolate doing root canal, build-up and crowns because all the Americans are home. So the reason they all plateau is because every last one of them says, well, I can't get you in today. And it's crazy. And a lot of that has to do with
that's what they think.
Yeah.
Those are their thoughts.
And they also think they don't have enough room for an operatory. But when I lectured in Tokyo, where land is $1 million a square meter, I saw practices that had 9 dentists, and they were in a 3-operatory space that was 300 square feet. And, some would work 6 to noon, some work noon to 6, 7 days a week. But 9 dentists are working out of a 3-operatory deal. And in America, if you don't want to do all the extended hours, all the specialists, especially endodontists and oral surgeons, have not 1, but 2 emergency rooms because they're 80-20 rule. They make almost all their money off like 10 docs. And the last thing, if Stephanie's giving me all of her molars, and Steph calls me and goes, oh my God, my friend Lee she's in so much pain. Is there any way you can see her? And I can't squeeze her in? You're going to call another endodontist, and I may lose that whole cash cow. So those endodontists, they'll work through lunch. They'll stay at the end of the day. They're referring guys, but dentists, they're financially leveled, and someone's like, well, you're 11 o'clock canceled, and you've been sitting back here on Facebook for an hour. Would you like to see her during lunch? No, I'm going to Subway. I have to go to Subway every day, and I have to leave at 5 because my daughter gets out of school. Oh, so you're the only human that has a daughter getting out of school? I'm sorry. I thought 8 billion other people have dealt with that issue, but, the emergency rooms are 24 hours a day, firemen, policemen, but all dental staff is entitled to Subway at 12 noon, and they're all leaving at 5, and they all do $7.50 and take home, $1.50, $1.75. But the people who lunch is a luxury. I'm not leaving. I'm not going to go home and watch Monday night or Thursday night football. I'm not going to go home and watch Monday night football when I know this lady's in pain. I'm a doctor. That's why I went to school 8 years. We will see her and we will do, when you have that attitude, you keep growing.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. Yeah. It's all proof of the thoughts that you have. Which is exactly the point, but we don't see it that way.
No, because we think our thoughts are true.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. All of them.
Right. And one of the first things that, I like to do when I'm working with clients is to remove that notion, right? That our thoughts are true, or we think that all of our thoughts are true.
Yeah.
And
you
instead,
can mathematically, the most sacred thoughts to him, you can prove are suspect. Like my oldest sister and I had this argument since we were in college. She's left high school and went straight to the nunnery, and she's my older sister, so I'm 58, she's 60. She's been a cloistered Carmelite monk nun her whole life, and I always tell her, I said, okay, now, but if you would have been born in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, you'd be Islamic. And when we would talk about that 20, 30 years ago, she couldn't even breathe. But now that she's 60, at least she realizes that's true. If she would have been born in Kathmandu, she'd be Buddhist, and which is the best one because whenever your God is a bald fat guy with a big belly. I mean, that's got to be the best religion. Any religion that looks like that guy is a good one. But so you're born into your religion, your language, your food, your, like when you say, well, I can't eat that. Dude, if you'd have been born in New Delhi, you'd be eating curry.
Yeah.
I mean, you only say you can't eat that because your mom didn't shove it in your mouth from birth to 10. But
Yep.
I mean, and I almost where I almost lost it completely. I mean, when I'm drinking, I'm doing good. But when I saw what those Hong Kong and Chinese dentists were eating at the restaurant, I mean, it was live stuff. It was still moving. I mean, so it's all in your head.
Yeah.
And if you just look at something wiggling in your plate and reject it, you might even be born into it. So not only might your thought not be true, might not be proven in court, it might mostly correlate with most human activity is distance to origin of birth. And that's a serious one. Like you'll meet a dentist and he'll always introduce his wife, oh, this is love of my life, number one girl in the universe. Don't tell me you were born in Parsons, Kansas, and out of 8 billion girls, this girl also was born in Parsons, Kansas. Was she? Yeah, she was, Howard. She was born on the same block as my mom. Yeah, right. So, I mean, and that is why Match.com was taking over the world until the smartphone came out, and it was a dating site called Tinder that put the GPS locator in there, where you could dial from 0 to 100, and most people, at a certain age and income don't even have a car or transportation, so, they're not going to walk 90 miles for a date, but they might walk a mile, all right, but that destroyed all the other business models. So distance is king. Most of your patients come from the same area, so so a lot of your thoughts in your head are in your head right now because of where you were born. And that is the most provable.
Well, I think the most important thing to remember is that the health of your practice, the health of your business, the health of your dentistry is directly relatable to the health of your brain. If your brain's not healthy, none of it's healthy. Your relationships aren't healthy, none of it. So, I mean, more than anything, I think we're students of the brain because it's fascinating. And it's fascinating because you can take the weather and go either way with it. You can take anybody's practice and go either way with it. And it's so interesting, and it's all malleable. It's all changeable. It's all of it. And you know that. I mean, like just what you said. I mean, if you're in a different location, I mean, there are always successful dentists in every market. Always. There are always unsuccessful dentists in every market. The reason for that is how they think, and how they think determines how they show up, and how they show up determines their results.
And I'll give you some other macro examples. Like, I love China. I don't care what anybody in the news. The Chinese people, they're so sweet and they're so happy and they're always, smiling, working. I mean, my gosh, they are just. I think they're just some of the coolest people in the entire world.
It's an awesome place to go too.
And my gosh, a dentist won't suggest this treatment because it's not covered by insurance. The Chinese, when I go there, they're just like, well, if you eat chocolate and drink Coca-Cola all day and get 10 cavities, why should your boss or your government be responsible? You should pay for these 10. And if you don't have the money, you should get an extra part-time job. And maybe all those hours of working, you will stop eating chocolate bars and drinking Coca-Cola and start brushing and flossing your teeth. And they call it, and they're educated, they've got the same science you do, they call it correctly moral hazard. They think dentistry is a behavioral disease. And I'll give you an example. France passed a deal in their infinite craziness where if you had lower back pain that disabled you to where you couldn't work, your previous employer had to maintain 80% of your wages. That was a right. And within an hour, 10% of France had such severe lower back pain that now 10% of France couldn't go to work. And it's like, and then you say, okay, so incentives matter. But then you go to Canada up north where they have long lines for healthcare, and you say, okay, she's getting a $50,000 hip transplant. Why can't she cover 10% of it? Because when you tell her she's got to pay 10%, $5,000, she's like, oh, I don't need it that bad. Oh, so you wanted everyone else in town to pay taxes, to pay 50 grand when you wouldn't even pay 5 for yourself. These are obvious human behaviors, measurable, that, if you don't believe in, then we have to throw away 2 centuries of economic theory. And people they choose to believe stuff that there's just no, there's no reason for any of this. Like, you're just thinking shit that's not real. So how do you show someone in that mood that, dude, what you're thinking about is, and it can be in really successful Steve Jobs had that. I mean, the whole biography on Steve Jobs is that he lived an alternative universe. I mean, his key people are saying, we'd all be there, there'd be an event, and he saw the event entirely differently than everyone else in the room. So when someone's in this bad way and they're is the glass half empty, is it half full? How do you get them to see straight, or how do you get them to see the glass half full when they're seeing it half empty?
Yeah. Well, we start with their results. Like, what's going on right now in your R line? Like,
how do they do that? Is there a website they go to take that algorithm test, or is there a link for that? Or
I wish that'd be a great idea.
That's a great idea. No, there's not. I mean, it's weird.
It sounds really simple, but it's kind of complex. And I wish it were more simple, because I think we could help a lot more people a lot faster.
Right.
But it's almost like going to the gym. It takes a while to build the muscle, and it just takes a while to kind of build the skill with it. But answer that.
Well, I mean, to your point, I love the muscle analogy, because the brain is a muscle and it's neuroplastic. So you can get it to change, but you can't, it's not as simple as a formula. You can't just go to the gym and lift like a bicep curl. Right. And the bicep has 2 heads, so you have to work at different angles. There's sequencing and programming as it relates to it. Same thing with our brain. So currently, we're doing just like 20-minute mini sessions to get them thinking about what they're thinking about, to get them thinking about, okay, if these are the results that I have in my life, and if maybe I could be wrong about this, maybe they're wrong, but if what you're saying is true and my thoughts are causing this, let's back it up. Let's do the model in reverse. So if these are your results, what are your actions? They're motivated by what emotion? What thought are you thinking about that's triggering that emotion? Because once we know that, once we figure out what that is, we'll be able to have the missing link to then like swap the thought to create a more intentional model.
This might be totally unrelated and off the record, and I shouldn't ask it, but another thing that I'm flagged to is you go to the doc's home, and he owns a land and building. He lives in a nice 3,000-4,000 square foot home, and it's just a lovely place to be. And you hang out there and watch the game. But then you go to his office, this little 1,000 square foot dingy thing that he rents and leases, and there's no break room, whatever. And you just think to yourself, hell, if you put your dog in the dental office, he'd want out of the cage to go home. And when I was building my dental office, I thought, well, if I'm asleep 8 hours a day, and I'm up 16, so I'm at work 8, home 8, my home and house shouldn't be that much different. I own the land, I own the building, about the same size, same amount of luxuries. And I couldn't believe how many consultants saying, well, this is a bad idea, this is too big. You could have got, instead of 8 ops, you could have put 12. And it's like, well, dude, I'm Irish. I need a break room. I have to eat a cookie after a root canal. And then one of my patients who just passed away recently, Bernard Wells, he saw me always coming out of the room, doing my shoulder thing. And he ran to Home Depot, came back, and installed a pull-up bar. And he said, when you're sitting there with your 10-pound bowling ball head hanging over, when you stand up, why don't you just hang on to that thing and do one pull-up? I looked at so many dentists that had carpal tunnel syndrome, and they've never done a push-up in the last decade. And I thought to myself, did you really need hand surgery? What about after a procedure, if you're having hand issues, you put your hands flat on the ground to do a push-up? But my direct question is, do you think the physical design or the space that they live in affects their mental health and thoughts about their work environment?
Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. It's hilarious that you asked that, because we've been talking about that all day. And we haven't been talking all day, but we've been talking, that's been the topic of conversation today. So the clutter that we have in our physical space and the clutter that we have in our brains are directly related, right? Because if your brain is clear and you're thinking clearly and you're performing clearly and easily, everything's coming easily, you probably don't have cluttered physical space either.
Right. Yeah.
And vice versa, right? I mean, I know it sounds kind of simple, but as I've done this process of clearing out my brain and, like making room for higher thinking and, just really functioning better on every level, I've also cleared out my physical space, because before then there was clutter everywhere. It wasn't just my brain. It was my physical space too. And we think that they're totally directly related.
Well, I got a follow up to that because I'm living in ground zero for DSOs because Arizona passed a law, Governor Ducey, that if you got a dental license in all 50 states, you can work here. 18.6% of all the dentists in Arizona work for DSO, and having worked across the street from the major DSOs for my whole life, in the eyes of the consumer, they love the location, the convenience, everything. They love everything about it. But they don't like the doctor-employee turnover. I mean, when they come in, they usually say, well, God dang, every time I go in there, it's a different dentist. So then I flipped it around. I look at the dentist. I say, well, why did you quit that? And a lot of them say just that. Well, you know what? In between patients, the only place I go is stand in the hall. It's like, why don't I get a room? Where do I go when I want to, have some privacy or whatever? And I'm supposed to go in some cattle cage with, they just wanted, they're a human. They wanted to go into their mouse hole or whatever. And then the other thing is, and I want to get your specific answer to this, because they overuse temporary staff. They're like, well, we don't need a full-time this. We just put in temporary staff. And these young dentists who didn't get to do 15 canals of endo on a live patient, they're in a pandemic. They did 2 on a typodont, and they're going in to do their molar. They're scared. They've been watching all this online CE and YouTube. They're all pumped up, and they think they're going to do it with their Girl Friday, and now it's Girl Stranger. It's like, well, where's my assistant? Oh, she's sick or whatever, but we brought in a temp. So he's like, so I got to do a molar root canal with somebody I couldn't pick out of a police lineup? So the patients don't get a relationship. The dentist facility isn't privacy. But do you think the love affair that DSOs have with temp agencies is I know it's an awesome short-term fix for the emergency today, but like you gave that example, the dentist stressed because his hygienist didn't show up. So would you call in a temporary hygienist? What's better to say, hey, Girl Friday ain't going to be in today? Or come on down, we got Girl Stranger. She'll be in here all day long. I mean, it's so complex.
Well, the way that the relationships that you have, they're going to be directly proportional to what you want. I mean, so if they want temporary help, they don't value relationships. So, and so I don't understand why people wouldn't want long-term help. I mean, it might be a short-term solution to a short-term problem, but it's never going to be a business model, right?
It is their business model. The DSOs they just love it.
Yeah,
I mean, some of those DSOs go to their management deal. You know how many people are in recruiting and temp services and temp agencies? I mean, it's anything but, it's an issue.
I mean, I think there's probably always going to be a market for quickie dentistry and no relationship dentistry, but there's always going to be a market for relationship dentistry too.
I just named my next office.
Yeah.
Quickie dentistry.
Quickie
dentistry.
And that's probably, that might not have been the right word.
Yeah, but Leah, you do think that the physical office that they work in, I mean, if they're going to buy something, they buy, they'll make fun of someone buying a chairside milling machine, but they'll buy a $150,000 bass boat. They'll make fun of someone buying a Lanap laser, but they'll go buy a cabin or this. I mean, they buy the same number of toys or more for their home stuff, but a lot of these guys that all their toys are at home, they don't want to come to work and play. And the one thing I've noticed 32 years, that a lot of these dentists that are still crushing it and having fun at 60 and 70, I talked to a dentist, I'm talking to one this morning on the way in here, 75. In fact, the greatest story I ever had and I can't believe he disappeared in the crowd. I was lecturing in LA, and it was a 92-year-old dentist. He said he was the only dentist. He was the only dentist living from Auschwitz. he survived Auschwitz and was alive and still practicing. And he was he had just bought a CBT machine. He was telling me how he placed his first dental implant at 90. And I'm like, oh, hang on here, hang on. And he's a short guy, little, just adorable. But the bottom line is, I mean, he's still playing. He's still loving life. And so this facility thing is, I just walk into a lot of dental offices where I just think, God dang, it sucked to spend half my waking life in this shithole. But and then they don't know why they're burned out and fried and want to quit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think, so to answer your question, I think we think that when we leave our home and we go to our work, that we just leave our personal life on a coat rack, right? And that's not, like, we are energy. So when we energetically leave our home, we energetically go into our office, the identity has to align with what we want. And so it's not a shocker to me that the people that invest in their office, in their practice, and they make the same type of investment in their practice as they do their life, are most likely more successful, because we have relationships with all things. We have a relationship with ourselves, we have a relationship with our home, we have a relationship with our practice. And so if you inherently care for, take care of, acknowledge each of these different relationships as they are, right, that will create the results that you have. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I don't know if you...
No, absolutely. And I mean, yeah, 100%. Of course, everybody wants to work in my nicer offices.
Right.
I get it.
Well, so, Steph, you were, I was hearing you with the term dental selfology. Is that a thing, or is that, is that where they can take this test?
Yeah.
Or
So
what is dental selfology?
Yep. Dental selfology. Yeah, dental selfology is the basis for what this coaching model is. And then really what we did is we rolled it into dental coaching school, which is how to learn to apply the algorithm to anything. And that's the basis for the whole thing. And the idea is that when we aren't true to ourselves, when we aren't in line with, our own energy, then things go awry, right? And that's when people fall into these bad spots. And so dental selfology and dental coaching school are all about learning more about how you can consistently show up in your life the best way you possibly can.
Right.
So my homies listening to you right now, where are they going to go to follow up on this? Do you have a website, or is it coming soon, or where should they go? Where should they go if they want to learn more about selfology?
Yeah, the easiest way is Facebook or Instagram, really, because we're kind of a social media society, frankly. So we have, dental selfology lives there. And
okay, so do you have the link to that? What is it? Facebook.com/dental selfology?
Yep.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
See, and you thought I was the dumbest guy in the room. I figured that out. Dental. Okay. So you have that on Facebook under Dental Selfology.
Yep.
Yeah, you can find us there. And then in the posts, you can find out more about the dental coaching school and whether or not it's for you or for your practice or, whatnot. I do think it's fascinating how we came up with the dental coaching school.
Yeah.
Because dental selfology means that you're going to be doing selfology. It's not a real word, so don't look it up, but it is the study of self. And to your point, you were like, I just don't know if there are a lot of other dentists out there that want to take the time to know about themselves. They want to know, how do I inspire a team? How do I create something bigger than myself? How do I leave a legacy? Like, these are the things that these dentists want to know about. And I want to be able to coach my team, my practice on these tools and techniques. Mm-hmm. And so you're like, I think the coaching school will be better because not only if they want to learn about coaching for themselves, then awesome, they'll learn how to do it, but more so they'll be able to learn how to do it so they can inspire their teams to be better and to create the results and the successes, the profitability, and all of that they want.
Exactly.
You know, if someone else has done it, it's probably possible. You know what I mean? So, I mean, you know, like I never had an original idea. I mean, I had my father, love of my life, and he was amazing with Sonic Drive-In. And but my next door neighbor was Kenny Anderson, who's still practicing dentistry, which I think says a lot about my first mentor. I mean, I had 32 years. He's at 52 years.
Wow.
And you know, I mean, my dad was making foot-long chili cheese dogs, and Kenny was taking x-rays through teeth. And I mean, it was the big technology of the day. I mean, we didn't have computers and Instagram and Facebook and all that crap. You know, that was the coolest technological thing I saw, and it was just love at first sight. And and like say, you'll go into a medical dental building, like, you know, some of these medical dental buildings, like, you know, like hell, there's 6200 South McClintock's that had 20 dentists in the same building. And I just thought it was so amazing. And just like you said, there's half a dozen of them have never done 700, and then there's 2 or 3 that have never done under 2 million. And and then think about this. This is bizarre. So I always say this stat because I just think it just blows my mind. And let me pull it up just to so I get it right. But in as far as cars go, the average new car price in America is $33,560 according to Kelley Blue Book and USA Today. And on average, Americans will buy 13 new cars before they're 76 years old. And you go in that medical dental building, and 1 or 2 of those dentists will do a $10 to $25 to $50,000 case like every Friday for 40 years. While 6 other dentists says, well, the insurance won't pay for it. The insurance won't pay for it. They're not going to ever have a done because nobody's going to ever spend their own money on their own body. Dude, they bought 13 cars for $33,000. I mean, Aspen just bought Clear Choice. You know why? Because about 18,000 Americans a year are going to go in there and drop $25,000 on an arch, while all the Americans say, well, no one, if Delta doesn't cover it, they're not going to cover it because, well, who pays for their weed and Jameson? I'm pretty sure they find money for pot and liquor and 13 cars. But if you believe that if insurance doesn't pay for it, they won't believe it, even though all of China, which has 4 people for every one of you, believes that the only person that should pay for your lack of brushing and flossing and eating sugar should be yourself. So, I mean, it all starts with your own thinking. And if you disagree with anything I said, well, then ask yourself, well, why are you disagreeing me in English instead of German or Mandarin Chinese? I mean, you know, if you're arguing about me in Mandarin Chinese, I'll listen. But if you're arguing with me from the language you were born into and taught from your own mom, I mean, you just don't have any leg to stand on. So you can see the glass half full, or you can see the glass half empty.
That's right.
Yep.
So, my God. So what else did you want to tell them, Art? Is that the crux of your message, or what? Is there anything?
I mean, we could do this all day. You know, if you could take any scenario, any situation, you know, give us a situation that you've struggled with. I'm curious.
Well, I know my homies, and they're introverts. I mean, in order to get A's in calculus and physics and chemistry and biology. I mean, at Creighton, if you got 1 C in math, physics, chemistry, and biology, it's over. It's time to go over to the business school or whatever. And so the people who love staying in library, like lawyers, they all love to read. Well, go in your life. Who's the readers? It's a bookworm. It's a quiet person in the corner. So they're always stressed by people, whether it's their staff or their patients. They just they're just not at their best in front of people, and they find people exhausting and draining. And to refuel, they want to go away from people. And that's why you can't find them for 3 days on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So my question is, how do you take someone who's a natural-born mathematician bookworm and make him want to go out there and be a conductor to a bunch of people on his team and a bunch of patients coming in? Like I'm like, you know, half the time I see you, Steffany, you're on the local news program show and you're on the couch on the morning news show. And that's where you're home. I mean, You look and sound like you're on your own couch at home. You were born for that lifestyle, and all the other dentists in Iowa weren't. So how do you make someone? How do you make them more comfortable around complicated people?
Well, I mean, if we're talking about introvert versus not introvert, I would challenge that thought. Because you can't go to your doctor and say, you know what, I think I'm an introvert. Can you test me? See if I test positive for that, right? So introvert is a thought, and a lot of it is an identity focus. And a lot of us like to hold on to our identity. Like forever, I thought I was impatient because people used to tell me I'm impatient. Okay, and then I realized that that thought is not serving me. I'm just going to set it down. Okay, and now I'm not going to be impatient anymore. Now I'm going to be patient. And I'm going to have patient thoughts. And when I started telling my brain that I'm patient, guess what I became? More patient. Okay. So again, and I'm not even suggesting that an introverted dentist is a bad thing. I just want you to question as to whether or not you really are. And in comparison to who? Okay, so you might be more introverted than Steph, but are you more introverted than my husband? I don't know, right? That's going to be a challenge. And then see how your introversion shows up in your result line. It all goes back to the model every single which way. So if you're introverted and that you self-isolate and that you withdraw, it's because you have thoughts generally, which is ironic enough, but most of my introverted dentists that I've talked to date have thoughts of self-isolation and withdrawing because of insecurity, in confidence. And I'm like, how? Like, you have to be super, super smart. You just said it, to be a dentist. Otherwise, go to business school or really anything else. Okay. So how are my introverted people showing up with some insecurity? And I think they're coming up with insecurity because they have this identity. They're not as extroverted as other people, maybe the hygienists or maybe other team people, or maybe even their own patients, that they're trying to offer up confidently, this is what I think you should do. And because people are challenging and whatnot, it triggers them to be like, oh, well, maybe you shouldn't do that. And so they question themselves, they self-doubt themselves on what they're offering to the patient. So again, I would question all of it. I would question whether or not introversion is a thing, if they really are introverted, if they want to hold on to that identity and how that identity is serving them. Kind of like a smoker. I'm a smoker. I've always smoked. Well, that's why you always smoke, right? Because that's your identity. Because who are you if you're not a smoker?
And on that note, I mean, I love what you just said. I mean, are your thoughts serving you? I mean, it's that simple. Are your thoughts serving you? Are they productive? Why do you intentionally decide to act in a negative, unproductive way? So I have two friends, and one of them, both of them, their dad was a very abusive, alcoholic drunk who put a lot of violence on them and their siblings and their mother. And so one of them uses that as an excuse to do the same damn thing, and the other one is as old as me and has never touched the alcohol. But in all due respect, he's not Irish, so he could have some genetic anomaly thing. Maybe he was born that way. But there's example. Why are you being negative? My mama did that. Why are you not being negative? Because I watched my mama do that, and I'm never going to do that again. So you just reacting to the exact same thing. I always think that's really interesting, where everybody sees the exact same thing and everyone reacts to it differently. And what you're suggesting is that, come on, man, you got A's in calculus, physics. I mean, if you know the difference between a sine, a cosine, and a tangent, you have the skills to rethink this, right?
Absolutely, yeah. And, I love Bruce Lipton's work. He talks about the biology of belief, and you were talking about belief. Do you believe that you're a person, right, that can be extroverted? Yes. Do you know anybody that's an extrovert? Okay, if the answer is yes, is that person that's an extrovert a person? Yes. Are you a person? Yes. Well, then you can be a person that can be extroverted. Okay, you can believe that. You have to take your brain along the way, because you've been thinking, however old you are, right, for decades, that you're not a person that is extroverted. You can be whoever it is that you want to be. You just have to change your thoughts, and you have to nicely and kindly move your brain in that way. Because otherwise it's going to stay stuck in the past.
So you are quoting Bruce Lipton.
Bruce Lipton.
Harold Lipton, who he wrote books on The Biology of Belief.
Tons of books, but Biology of Belief is a really good one, because what it does is it informs us that we are not destitute by our DNA, right? We're not genetically programmed or wired to be any certain way, that there is a certain thing to the beliefs that we have, and we can create our results based on our beliefs.
Yeah, powerful stuff. So they can go. There's a Facebook. You said go to Facebook and enter.
Yeah, Instagram.
Just go to Facebook.
Facebook.
Well, here. So on Instagram, is it called Dental Selfology?
Yep.
Oh, nice. So there's Dental Selfology Leah Rolling and Dental Selfology Coach Leah Rolling. And so which one? I'll follow them both. So Instagram or Facebook, just go to Facebook. And by the way, if you follow me on Facebook, I know I got 300,000 followers on Facebook, and I haven't been there since the pandemic. During when this thing came out, shit hit the fan, and I started, getting more podcasts and things like that. But I only have so much time in a day, and I'll tell you, and I have to give credit for this to the founder of Intel. My gosh, he was. Oh my God, what was the name of his book? What was the founder of Intel's book?
Robert Hicks.
Founder Intel book. I can't believe it. Only the Paranoid Survive by Andrew S. Grove, where, that guy was that book just slapped me upside the head. He was telling me about, basically he was started out in his childhood, and he was, and the Third Reich was coming to power, and lots of really bad stuff was happening, and his own mother was telling him, well, we can't leave because this is our only house. And it took him a long time and a lot of really ugly events before his mom realized there were more important things than her damn house, and they got the hell out of here. So then he shows up in San Francisco, part-time jobs. But anyway, and then creates Intel and everything. But one thing he said to me was, never stuck. He says, he always knows who the leaders are, because when the shit hits the fan, the first thing they do is they clear their desks, they clear out their calendar, and they say, this is a deal. And when I finally realized in February that, my God, something very, very big is happening, and this is not going to be the same, I decided I had to clear my desk. So what I did is, I always have a gazillion emails. I Control-Alt-Deleted everything in my inbox, set and trash, or just cleaned out everything. And then I looked at where I was spending time, and I didn't have any grandchildren following me on Facebook. So Facebook, even with 300,000 followers, said goodbye to that, deleted the app, have not been back since. Still have Instagram, but for grandchildren reasons, I kept that one. But what I don't understand is when a dentist is, they're really troubled by all this stuff, and I look at their calendar, and they decided they're going to be the coach for their child's soccer team, or they want to be the Toastmaster, or the Kiwanis Club, or the Rotary Club. And I just when something's really bad, the first thing I want to do is I want to see your calendar. And if your calendar looks like a normal dentist calendar, dad, whatever, if the calendar looks totally normal, I know either there's not a problem, or you're sure as hell not spending any time solving the problem. So if it's really a problem, then get rid of all the time you're spending on a lot of shit that's not a problem, or a less weighted problem, until this problem is solved. And when Andy Grove, when he realized that the government of Japan was going to subsidize RAM chips, and Ronald Reagan, the president, believed in free trade, whatever that means. I still know what free trade is. So it's free in America, but all the Asian players, the government throws money at him in briefcases. He cleared the fan, and then he shut down his RAM division and put all of his eggs in microprocessors. And so every time he was at a fork in the road, he cleared his desk, he cleared his calendar, and he sat there and became the problem until he successfully solved it. So thank you for that, Andy Grove. And thank you for coming on the show. And Dennis, there's nothing in this thing that you can't solve. I mean, anybody that can get into dental school, hell, anybody that can just get an A in physics and calculus, what percent of the planet would not even, I mean, when people say they're bad in math, I always ask, well, when's the last time you did a math problem? Well, I haven't done one since the 6th grade. I tried to find the area of a circle, and I couldn't, and I suck in math. Really? So you couldn't find the area of a circle in grammar school, and so now you're still mathematically challenged. Just, I love it. Are your thoughts serving you?
Yeah.
Are your thoughts productive?
Yeah.
If they're not, why are you thinking them? Thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's nice to meet you.
Yeah.
And it's 90 degrees, so I can call U-Haul right now. U-Haul started in Phoenix. I can send them straight to Iowa, pick up all your stuff, and you can be my associate.
Yeah, it'll just like fan the hot flashes, Howard.
All right, well, have a great day, ladies. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Take care.
Bye.
Yep.